it a few minutes and
Yeah.
see what happens. So, let's see, where were we?
So he was fishing. He liked to
Yeah,
spin
so
reels.
he would do spin fishing for quite a while. And then at some point, he became interested in fly fishing. And he liked everything about fly fishing, how it was so, I don't know, it was sort of like being part of the country, you know, it was very quiet and soft feeling. And he liked getting in waders and going out in the lake or the stream. And he loved tying his own flies. He got so good at it, he became a fly tying teacher. And he taught fly tying in two of the different fly tying clubs here in Southern California. Yeah, he was great. I have an awful lot of fly tying equipment if you ever get interested.
The jars of feathers and stuff like that.
Well, no, not the supplies that he used to make them with, but I kept several other things that he actually made. Some supplies that he actually
cool.
made. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we would always go there. You had just tons of that stuff laying around.
Yeah.
That's fun. What is your family structure? You said you have one sister, and two brothers.
Mhm.
Who's the oldest? No.
My dad had two sisters and two brothers. All I had was one sister.
Oh, you have one sister.
Just Michelle, and just the two of us grew up with mom and dad, and we went from one pet to another. We had 3 or 4 different dogs in our lives, one at a time.
Oh, that's cool. And what were your household chores like? What kind of things did you have to do?
I had chores in and out of the house. Outside the house, I would mow and edge and weed and prune and do the gardening kinds of things. And inside the house, I would, empty the waste baskets and take the waste baskets out to the incinerator. There was an incinerator in the backyard, and so when you got a good bundle of stuff, you take it out there and burn it. And that's how we got rid of burnable things. And then there was a separate can for the garbage. So the garbage and trash, that was one thing I did in the house. And then I worked a lot with my mom. She taught me a lot about cooking and ironing and taking care of yourself. So when I moved out and went to college, I didn't have any trouble knowing what to do with all of my roommates.
Where did you go to college?
First I went to Santa Monica Junior College. Then I went to San Fernando Valley State. And then I went to Long Beach State College. That's where I finished up.
And you got a master's?
Got a bachelor's degree there and began teaching. And then while I was teaching, I was taking courses for my master's. And 5 years later, I got a master's.
How long did you teach before you became a principal?
I taught 15 years before I became a principal. I only taught 3 years before I became a vice principal. So then I was a vice principal for 12 years and then became a principal.
So you were teaching and were a vice principal at the same time?
Yeah.
Is that how it works today?
That's how it works in elementary schools in the Westminster School District. And the junior highs have a non-teaching vice principal. And then of course the same thing with high school. But some of the elementary schools now are getting so big that they need a non-teaching vice principal. That wasn't the case when I started.
What kind of duties did that entail? Like when you were vice principal?
When you're vice principal, you're kind of in charge of making sure everybody has classroom supplies, textbooks, and make sure all of the duties are assigned equally, whether it's playground duty or bus duty or whatever. And you also you assist the principal in evaluating teachers and planning a budget and all that stuff.
When in all of that time did you get married? Did you get married before you went to college or in the middle of college?
I got married just as I was finishing college. In 1965, I graduated in February, and we got married in April. And we had 2 children. And that marriage, I only stuck with that marriage for about 5 or 6 years. Yeah. Probably six or 7 years. Yeah. One of the things that you're going to be asking about is what was the most difficult thing in my life. Well, not the most difficult, something like that. And it led me to think about the most difficult thing for me at this point in my life is having to look back on 4 marriages, you know. And I think if I had the vision and the feeling that I have about love and marriage and family, that if I had all of what I have now when I was younger, I think I would have just got married and stayed with it forever and enjoyed the fact that sometimes it's not that much fun and other times it is. And so I regret that. If I could do it over again, that's what I would want to make sure I did. So anyway, I got married in '65, and we had 2 children, and I was working in the Westminster School District.
And then, now, when you married
Karen.
no, after Karen, when you married
Ruth.
I've always heard that you eloped and got married in like Tahoe. Is that
No.
no?
Sort of eloped. That's interesting. I mean, we were both adults. So, I mean, you only elope, I guess, when you're living in a home with your parents or something. But I was spending a lot of time at Ruth's house, and one day we planned this so that as soon as the kids all went to school, we got in the car and we drove up to the Lake Shrine and got married. And since we didn't have any family involved in it, we had to have one of the monks on the grounds be the witness. You have to have a witness. And so it was very official and everything, but it was just the 2 of us. And after they married us, we kind of spent some time on the grounds, just feeling the spiritual idea of the day.
Do you have any pictures from that?
No, we didn't take pictures. No, we didn't. We just tied the knot, and we came home and told the kids. I think we told them the same day. Yeah.
The way my dad told me when I was a little kid, he said that it was just one day you showed up and were like, "Hey, we got married," and it wasn't really sure when
I
it
know.
happened.
No, it was. I think we told them the same day.
And then, do you remember what day that was? Because I vaguely remember hearing that it was on my birthday, and that's how Grandma remembered it was like in December.
December 8th.
December 8th.
Yep.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yep.
And then, after that, where you stayed mainly in Huntington Beach area?
My first house was in the first place I lived after college was Midway City with Karen, and we were there for I think 2 years. Then we moved to.
Did Karen work, or was she a stay-at-home?
Karen she didn't finish college at the same time I did, but as soon as she finished, she started working in the Westminster School District also. And then as soon as she started becoming a mother, she stayed at home with the kids and didn't go back to substituting until they were back in school. But yeah, so we lived in Midway City. Then we went to Shorewood Circle, where your grandmother lived, and then we went to another street south of there, and I can't remember the name of that street. Right by Edison High School, and we lived there until we split up, and then I went and lived in an apartment in mid Huntington Beach, and then then when I married your grandma, I moved I moved into her house on Sherwood Circle, right next door to the house where I had been before, and we stayed there until we split up, and then I moved to McSherrill over in the west end of Huntington Beach, right down near the water, and then we moved to Fountain Valley, and then after Fountain Valley I moved to the old folks home in Huntington Beach, and after that I moved to Jeannie's house in Huntington Beach. So I've been in Huntington most of the time.
Yeah. Now this isn't on here, but I had a question about Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever find out about her, where she came from at all? Remember that at all? Because I heard this story, tell me if you've heard this before. We heard this story that came out only after her mom died.
Okay.
That her mom was possibly raped in jail. Did you hear that?
No, I hadn't heard that at all.
Had you? Yeah, what we heard was that
Her mom had mixed feelings about her father,
yeah.
and I always wondered about that, and she never disclosed it. And she also wondered if she was fathered by this other fellow. I can't remember his name, but Grandma Soto went to live with this fellow after Grandma Soto died. I can't remember his name.
Huh.
Maybe I don't know. Might have been Reuben.
That sounds familiar.
But anyway, she wondered if she was fathered by that guy. And I don't know. I don't even know. Their family had so many mixed stories going around about who was what.
Yeah, what we heard, the story came out right after she died, after Irene died, was that Grandma, or that Ruth had been, the Irene had a car when she was younger and picked up some guys and drove them to the bank and ended up being an accomplice in a bank robbery. And she got pregnant and then went to jail, and she gave birth to Ruth either in jail or right after.
Wow.
And Hector was the next door neighbor or something to that extent, a good family friend. And because of the strong Catholic faith in their family, they decided to just have the kids get married. So Hector married Ruth so that it didn't look bad. And then Grandma Ruth said that she, I believe she said that, or my dad said that he never remembers them ever sleeping in the same room, or Hector and Irene.
Mm.
And that's interesting. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. That could just be.
Yeah, I don't either.